Okay guys, so recently a viewer put a comment on my voltage regulator tutorial asking me if I could show him how to take one of these 7805s, or really how to convert 7 volts DC to 5 volts DC. I didn't have a solar cell like he said in the description, but I'm just going to use this 7 volts from my power supply. It's going to be on these banana clips. Sorry, not banana, alligator clips. And so, he asked me, well, how would I go about doing this? So, this actually couldn't be easier. This is actually very simple to convert DC to DC, to do 7 volts to 5 volts. 7 volts is about the minimum you could convert to 5 volts. 6 volts won't work, 6.5 maybe. So you really want to use 7 if you're trying to convert to 5. That's because these regulators have what's called the dropout voltage. And the dropout voltage, you need to be careful of this, because for this 7805 is very cheap. It's probably about a 2 volt dropout voltage. That means the voltage you're putting in needs to be at least 2 volts greater than the voltage that you are trying to receive out. So just be wary of that. So if your voltage regulator doesn't work, try getting a higher input voltage. So these 7805s are very simple to use. You have an input, a ground, and an output in that order. So the leftmost pin is the input, the middle pin is the ground, and the right pin is the output. So I'll just take the ground here, get a little ground wire out of my box, and connect up the ground from the input to the ground of our 7805, right? Then the pin on the left is the input. So I will just get a wire here, stick it into there, and now connect up our power supply from the input, right? Now, you shouldn't use these things with a very high voltage. So I know that I'm converting 7 volts, but say I want to take 32 volts down to 5 volts. Even if this chip can handle a maximum of, say, 40 volts, it's not a great idea, because if you want to use even a small bit of current, this thing's going to heat up a lot, because it has a lot of voltage to drop. So 7 volts to 5 volts is great. Now, my viewer wants to supply 500 milliamps of current. That means you should probably put a heatsink on it so that this chip doesn't heat up, right? I don't really have any heatsinks I can put on now, but you should put on a heatsink from a computer or something onto the chip, like the screw-on type, or the thermal, use some thermal tape or thermal adhesive or something, just so it doesn't heat up. If not, it's going to get very hot, but no big deal, So then we're just going to hook up a wire to our output, and we will take some more alligator clips and connect it up to the multimeter. Okay, so for our multimeter's negative lead, I have it showing volts here. I'm going to hook the voltmeter's negative lead up to here, right? This multimeter is going to represent the output that you want to power, right? So now obviously you're going to want to measure the voltage like this, and the yellow wire here is hooked up to the output of the LM317 and hooked up to the positive input of my multimeter. Now, you would hook up the circuit you want to power in the same way. You would hook up the circuit you want to power's ground to the ground of the 317, which also happens to be this tab. And then you hook up your power supply to this output pin, right? Now there's still one more thing you have to do. Get yourself one of these caps labeled 104, right? The caps like this, labeled 104, and stick that between your ground and your output pins. Okay? Now, find say I'll go with a 1 microfarad cap here. You can do 1 microfarads, 10 microfarads, but I would go with one of these 1 microfarad caps here. Short it out. Oops, turned out that cap was blown. Anyway, take out cap 1 microfarad, short it out. I mean, this can be anywhere. This can be a 104. No lower values than 104. No lower values than 100N. And no higher than I would go with 100 microfarads, but a 1 microfarad's a good. And you take the negative stripe, and you're going to put that on the ground side, and the side with the no stripe on the input. Okay, and if I can just get that to stay in there. Here, I'll move it. Right, now our power supply is good and has filtering. Right now we're showing 0 millivolts. And if I take out my power supply and take the input to 7 volts, you will see that it is going to supply 5 volts output. So I'm going to turn on the 7 volts, and you're going to see it's going to go 5.04 volts. That's all you have to do to get a 7805 running. So what you want to do, if I turn it off, you see it's going to go down. But so really, in short, all you have to do is take the left pin, connect it up to your 7 volts, or your whatever your input voltage is. Take the middle pin, connect that up to your ground. From both circuits, the input and the output, very important. You take a 100 nanofarad to 100 microfarad cap. In this case, I'm using 101 microfarad. Sorry, from the input to the ground. Then you take the rightmost pin, which is the my cap's falling out. You take the rightmost pin, which is the output. You connect that to the power supply of the to the power of the circuit that you want to power, and you stick a 100 nanofarad, or it's labeled 104 cap, between that and the ground, and you're done. So you see, if I turn on the 7 volts, 504, and it is indeed 7 volts. I'm not sure if you can see that on that meter there, but it is 7 volts. So that's all you have to do to get your 5 volts. Real simple.